Watching stars on the silver screen. Nerdles gather, it's a movie scene. Seek down Spock, is he lost in space? What can appear with his famous face? Popcorn ready, spaceship in flight. On this journey we sail through the night. Warp speed ahead on a Star Trek quest. Who's the best? Trek or take a guess.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Holes talking about Star Trek. This time we're talking about Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. It came out in 1982. It was directed by Nicholas Meyer. It was a screenplay by Jack B. Swords and a story by Harve Bennett, which we saw in the credits.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some like sneaky underwriting between Nicholas Meyer and Samuel A. Peoples, who did the original pilot with Kirk. He wrote that story.
Oh, interesting.
So there's some secret writing in the background. And obviously it's based on and he has executive producer Gene Roddenberry. So for anybody who hasn't followed Star Trek, a quick synopsis is: with the assistance of the Enterprise crew, Admiral Kirk must stop an old nemesis, Khan Noonien Singh, from using the life-generating Genesis device as the ultimate weapon. So, on top of generally talking about it, normally what Caleb and I do on my channel, the Daystrom Holodeck, we cover Star Trek on a weekly basis, usually the television series, and we talk about it. We kind of break down the episodes. Caleb's never really watched Star Trek, at least to this fullest capacity that we're going through right now. So this is his first time seeing it. I've seen this movie many times. So we're covering the films, all of the Star Trek films over here. As Caleb said last week, this is kind of where we talk about movies mainly. We do talk about series, but mostly movies.
Yeah.
So this is where the movies will
review.
be. Yeah, so this is where the movies will be held. But when we get back into the television stuff, that'll go back onto the Daystrom Holodeck under the branding of the Retrek Review. So much like Caleb's Plastic Underground, where he does the props, and then he has like the subheading of the Nerd Holes where we do reviews. Very much the same over there.
Yeah. We both have like main channels that we do side stuff on and just name it different things instead of just starting different channels.
Nah.
Just like to lump everything together, you know?
We like to confuse the algorithm so it doesn't help us.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to know what we're doing over here.
Nothing. Well, that is enough of me talking about the introduction. So let's shoot over to Caleb and we will get Caleb's first viewing experience. How was it, Caleb? How did you like or dislike the Wrath?
It was very good. It's a lot better. I think I said last time. So for the first Star Trek movie that we watched, it just feels so not Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's just so kind of out in left field a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Like, ship is new, you know, everybody's old, the uniforms are weird. It's just I don't know, it's just kind of weird. This one though, it feels like Star Trek. It even from like opening, it's very much like, okay, I'm back in the world of Star Trek. I'm on the Enterprise. Things are different for sure. There's a lot of time that's gone by. But it has that feeling. It doesn't feel like a total like rebranding for the time period. It totally fits that like aesthetic and stuff. I enjoyed this movie. There are some things.
Yeah, of course.
And there always will be. That I just kind of like didn't care for. I like the original episode with Khan. I thought that was a good episode. I remember enjoying that.
Yeah.
That's cool to see him again, even though I kind of really don't understand his motives. and they kind of really try to like force them down your throat by a couple sentences, and you're still
Yep.
kind of like, okay, like
Right.
sorry that happened to you. I mean, you could have been in like prison or killed,
Right.
but you were given this chance and you like ruined it, and now you're mad at the person who like let you go free. Like, okay.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. And Kirk and Khan never see each other face to face. And I think that's a really lackluster like reunion. I get that
Yeah.
they're both old. They probably didn't want them to like physically try to fight each other.
Yeah.
But
They.
Kirk fights his son.
Yeah.
but but they never like meet up with each other and like physically have an altercation again,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of lame.
Ricardo Montalban also wanted to work with Shatner, but he was on Fantasy Island. He was currently filming the TV show Fantasy Island.
Welcome to Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
The
So
plane.
the plane, right. The
Yeah.
his scheduling time was like different than Shatner's. So that's why they're basically in
Yeah.
two different sets constantly.
That's the other thing that's funny about these movies too is like everybody is like old because it's not the 50s anymore, but also like currently William Shatner looks a lot older. So it's
Yes.
like so even in this he's like, "Oh, I'm just so sad because I'm old. I can't do anything
Yeah.
on the Enterprise anymore." And it's like, what are you like 50?
I think he turns 49 in the movie.
Because like in my time period, Shatner, you're like
90.
92.
Yeah, right. Right.
so, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of
So
funny.
basically from the animated series to the motion picture, it's like 3 or 4 years. And then from the
Yeah.
motion picture to this movie, it's like 11 or 12 years.
Yeah. I think everybody in this movie is great too.
Yeah.
I think, and that was the other thing that was kind of weird about the first one was like Spock kind of comes out of nowhere and he's like not the Spock that you remember
Yeah.
because he's, trying to be more Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very much like, I don't know. I feel like this movie's more of a fan
Yes.
letter, like everybody's
100%.
friends with each other.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that.
Well, I
Yeah.
can give you, instead of wading deep into the thing, I can just give you some information about it so that you can appreciate it.
Mm,
So the writer and producer Harv Bennett that we mentioned earlier had never seen anything Star Trek related, but
perfect.
but he at the time what they didn't consider it this, but what we would consider he binge watched the entire series to
Mm,
prepare for the movie.
wow.
And it feels like
Nobody
it
nobody does
absolutely
that anymore.
no. And it feels like it absolutely paid off, right? Like he knows the characters very well. And then we discussed this in the Return of the Jedi podcast that we did on your channel. According to William Shatner's Star Trek
Oh yeah.
movie Memories, the original title of the film was The Undiscovered Country. The
Hmm.
undiscovered country in this case being death.
Oh wow,
And
that's
then according
deep.
to Shatner, as he told Chris Kresge in quoting Nicholas Mayer, Mayer was outraged when Paramount marketing executive Frank Mancuso renamed the film Star Trek The Vengeance of Khan without consulting him.
Yeah.
The director said that the title was ridiculous and that they would be forbidden to keep it with George Lucas making a movie called Revenge of the Jedi
Hmm.
at the same time. And then months later, Paramount changed the subtitle to The Wrath of Khan, and the director Mayer hated that even more, but was made to live with it. Although it became a moot point when George Lucas changed the title to Return of the Jedi, and then the original title, The Undiscovered Country, ends up being the name of the sixth movie, which
Oh,
Nicholas Mayer goes on to direct again.
interesting.
So that's
It's
cool.
funny because it's like when you're doing a TV series and you have like it's episodic, you can have like a deeper meaning to the title of the episode.
Right, right.
And it's like, oh, like they pull a lot of things from like history and stuff, and you're like, that's cool. But like when you're in the motion picture, you don't do weird
No,
titles like that.
no.
Like, oh, the undiscovered country turns out was actually death. And I was like, wow, that's great. Hey, well, how about something like, something snappy that's gonna get people to go see it? People are
Yeah.
already not seeing Star Trek. Let's,
Right, right.
so a movie like called, if you watch the original series and you know who Khan is, and this movie is called The Wrath of Khan, you're like, heck yeah, dude, I'm totally going to the theater to see this.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, the
And
undiscovered country. Oh, that sounds riveting. I wonder what happens.
yeah. And from what I understand, the first movie did really well, obviously, in theaters because
Mm,
everybody went to go see it. And
yeah.
then once they saw it, everybody was like, we don't like it. It did really well, but nobody liked it.
Yeah, we saw it. That
So
doesn't mean we
Paramount
liked
wanted
it.
another movie, but they were like, hey, don't do that again. So he wrote the story where they went back in time to save President Kennedy from getting assassinated.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, they were like, no, no.
Turns out he was just a rock monster the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
I am Abraham Lincoln.
So
We
they
have to
took it away
save
from
Kennedy.
him. They took the writing away from him and gave it to this Harv Bennett guy who was an executive at Paramount.
And he's like, oh, okay. So now they go back in time and they're going to assassinate Hitler.
You're right,
They're
right.
like, nice. We love it.
Nice. You did it. I was reading these things and it was talking about how it had all these different titles. It was like the War of Generations, and then it was like the Omega machine, and then it was like
Mm,
the Genesis Project, and then it was originally when it first came out, it was just called Wrath of Khan. It was just called Star Trek Wrath of Khan. There was no two,
yeah.
but then once other movies came out, they retroactively
Oh,
went
that's
back
funny.
and put a two in the title.
I think Genesis is a good name. Star Trek 2 Genesis.
Yeah,
Project Genesis. That would have been a good title.
right.
And then it would have been a surprise that Khan was even in it.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is a little heavy-handed.
it is. But to me, that's what makes a Star Trek.
Yeah, well,
The
true.
heavy-handedness of it is very much like, okay, this is Star Trek. Yeah.
They don't shy away from letting you know that it's going to be Khan.
No.
So now we could talk about it a little bit. We've talked about it in the other podcast. So like, this is it. This is like every Star Trek fan's like
Like,
Avengers Endgame. Like
okay.
it doesn't get better to this to like for anybody.
Good.
This is like the gold standard that all Star Trek people want their movies to be
Mm,
like, and they want. So now, as my caveat, as being a Star Trek fan, I don't hate the movie. The movie is totally fine. I don't really have major issues with it. I have small little issues, but nothing really crazy.
yeah.
But I do think of all of the original series villains that they encounter, he is the weakest to bring
Hmm.
back to like cause issue. To me, there's
Yeah.
so many more terrifying, like open-ended people that you don't get resolution to. Where Khan is one
Well,
of the few episodes where you have resolution.
he's easy to understand for an audience.
Yes.
He's a pre-war dictator who is also an experiment
Yeah.
who has superhuman strength. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you want in a bad guy. Not like, oh, he's this weird alien guy, but he
Right.
pretends that he has action figures with humans and his parents don't like him doing it, but he's just
Yeah.
a baby alien
Like
guy.
yeah,
You're like,
exactly what you're saying.
okay.
He plays to the audience better than many of the other.
For cinema specifically, I can see like, okay, like we're doing Khan. He's easy to understand. He's a human. They're in
Yeah.
space. He was abandoned and now he's mad. Great, got it. I don't need
Yeah.
to know any more about it. His wife
So
was a beautiful painter, and now she's dead. Dead.
and I hate it.
I hate it. I hate Kirk.
Yeah.
Because in a really roundabout way, he ruined my life.
You ruined my life. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all Khan is basically mad at Kirk because he didn't do a welfare check.
That's exactly what it is. He didn't look in the solar system where he left me to see, like, hey, there might be an asteroid coming. How could he? I never came back to see how I was doing.
Yeah.
Even though I was a wanted criminal that he let go, he never came back. He didn't even tell Federation about it. Can you believe this guy? Now we live on this
I'm
dust
dead.
planet. We live on this dust planet. The only thing that grows down here is these worms. Oh, you thought this was
Yeah.
Sepal Beta 5? It's all under rubble. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy Spock being captain.
Yep.
That's great. I like the intro. I was like, oh man, this is really cool. We're finally seeing like a female captain. And then it was like, oh, that's a simulation and you clearly incompetent. Perfect. This is perfect.
We are in Star Trek.
And then, dude, it was even like really funny too because, Kirk says all this stuff to her and then they go to like leave space dock. And Spock's like, oh, would you like to take us out? And she's like, oh, sure. And she sits in the chair and like Bones and Kirk are like really scared about it. But it's like she's not flying the ship.
No.
She's like they're so like worried, like she's gonna immediately blow it up. It was like she's sitting in the chair and she's just like
Just telling
Sulu,
what to do,
impulse 1, please. And he's like, you got it. And they're like, even Bones is like, do you want like a sedative or
right? Yeah.
and he's like,
a tranquilizer,
a tranquilizer, yeah. He's like, oh no. Oh God. But it was like she's not piloting the ship, she's just telling the ship to move, and Sulu is driving the ship. I think you're probably
okay.
It was like this really weird, like
it was.
Get it because she's a girl.
Ooh.
And I was like, and I was very confused, but I was like, is she Vulcan?
Yeah.
Because she shows a lot of emotion.
She certainly does.
She shows a lot of emotion. And then when you finally see her ears, they're not pointed. They're like tall and round. And I was like, what?
I think they are pointed. Just must
They're
not
more,
be.
they're not like Spock's. They're more like they go up and then kind of like curve. I don't remember seeing, they're not like a sharp peak.
I don't remember
from what I see. And then she cries at the end. I don't even know what her deal is. She's no Vulcan of mine, I'll tell you that. You're out of your Vulcan mind. She's good though. I like her character.
Yeah, Savick is cool.
Yeah.
The thing that
cool.
I thought immediately of you was when we were watching the motion picture and the movie starts and the music and the star field comes up, and then it was immediately like the original music. And I was like, okay, Caleb's probably like, nice.
Yeah. That was like sweet. Now, if they could just drive by the Enterprise a few more times,
just a couple more,
I would have been happier.
Yeah.
But and then here's the other thing. The uniforms are fantastic.
You like them?
I do. I was under the impression, as just like seeing pictures and stuff, I was under the impression that Kirk was the only one that had the full red white collar because like that was the Admiral's uniform.
Gotcha.
And everybody else had different uniforms. But everybody has those uniforms.
They're just like the
colors are different.
The colors, yeah.
So engineering is like gold.
Yes.
I think medical is also gold. But Bones has a different,
like green.
They change like 4 times.
Yeah, it's like Bones is like teal, I think.
Yeah. Well, when he's down in the engine room helping people later in the movie, he's got like that white suit on, and he's got like the colored scrub underneath almost, and he's got like the big medical snake pendant thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. I don't like the engineering uniforms, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're like The
Yeah.
big Iron Man thing with like the big collar that comes down.
Yeah.
Like, we are ready to engineer,
Eh,
sir. Like,
yeah.
uh-oh. The intermix chamber needs more power. Yes. Like, oh, okay. But to be fair, towards the end of the movie, you kind of realize like, oh, they're like
Yeah.
full radiation suits. Okay, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah. Communicators are back.
Yeah. Well,
Kirk's
they have the
chair
wrist
is
ones.
they do have the wrist ones, but he has
Yeah.
he's got the flipper. Kirk's chair, it still does the
It still is the
folds
thing.
in
I
and
forgot
out,
it was. Yeah.
which is cool. It's really impractical, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Because it's like the chair's open and there's nowhere to like put your arms. He's just sitting there like this, being captain. And then
Right.
he's like, he has to like fold this thing up and he's like, engineering. And then he's like, okay, I'm done talking.
I gotta get up now.
You
I
know,
thought the like scene when he comes after Savick fails the Kobayashi Maru, that Kirk coming in through with the backlit where he's all lit from behind.
that's
And
pretty great.
that was a pretty
Yeah.
good scene.
I like seeing Kirk as the Admiral, if I'm being honest. He coming in with
Uh,
he's holding his book
The bug, yeah.
and he's like, oh, yes, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, actually, like it would be somebody like in the academy, like you know, with his reputation,
Right.
you would trust what he says, but you would also like want to like impress him, you know.
Right.
And I love that. But I love how his friends through the whole movie are like, you know, Spock says to him
Mm.
that he didn't need to take the promotion or he shouldn't have taken the promotion. Basically saying like he should have just continued to be just a captain.
Oh,
Like that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
his role. Bones says to him, as your medical advisor and your friend, you need to be on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool too. And we got to see Romulan ale again. That's
Yeah.
fun.
How funny was Shatner's acting when he takes a drink of the Romulan ale? He was
Yeah.
just like,
I was like, is it good? Is it not? I don't.
it's all right.
This
Well,
is smooth.
smooth. Yeah. The other thing
I gotta
that
get some.
left
I gotta get
too
some
was,
Romulan ale.
yeah, it was when Bones is like, well, the least you could do is say thank you. And he's like, thank you.
He's like, all right, Jim, what the hell is wrong? What's going on with him?
Yeah.
Like, well, Bones, I'm old. I need glasses to see. Can't you see I'm old? He's like, oh, you know, I'm allergic to implants. And he's like, that's why I got you these glasses. And he's like, yeah. Well. And his old book, or Spock gives him the old book because he likes vintage things. And that was cool seeing his apartment.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of like the, you know, flintlocks and
Yeah. The guns. Yeah.
stuff hanging up on the wall. That's really cool. I really like that scene of him and Bones in the beginning, just kind of like lounging in the chairs by his fireplace, just
Yeah. Yeah.
talking.
I think honestly, this movie does really well because a lot of other movies, when they bring back older actors, revisiting their roles like years later, because now at this point, like he's been off the air for like 12 years. I mean, I know the motion picture, but still, it's been really, because they're almost like completely forgetting what happened in the first movie.
Oh, they're not even talking about the first movie.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I think honestly this movie does really well of like dealing with a character being old but not making him feel like he's out of touch.
This should have been the first movie.
Yes.
If it came back and was like, okay, so Kirk is an admiral and he's just doing a checkup on the ship, and like, uh-oh, this awful thing is happening, and he's just aboard doing a regular maintenance thing. That's a
Right.
great premise. That's a great
Oh,
premise.
yeah.
And it's like, hey, so the Federation, they still want you to be captain because nobody else has your,
Yeah.
like readiness. Because they even say that, like, hey, wouldn't we be better off just having the Enterprise have like the original crew?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, because we're all too old. And Uhura's like, what do you mean? What does he mean by that?
Yeah.
That's pretty great. Scotty feels more like Scotty too.
Yeah.
For
He
whatever
does.
reason. I don't know why. He's just like, in the first movie, he's either underutilized or he just was just kind of like a background character.
He's very
almost feel
mad
like.
in the first movie. Yeah.
But this one, he's, you come right aboard and he's like, "We'll have the ship ready to go, sir." And I was like, "All right, Scotty's back.
He's back. Yeah.
He's got
Oh
his
yeah.
little mustache."
Little whiter hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little heavier.
It is super sad to see these guys
Age. Yeah.
older,
Yeah. I
and
know.
especially because kind of like the way the movie ends, and then you're like, oh, but it's also like, well, Leonard Nimoy is actually gone, and
Yeah.
that's depressing too.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, most of the people you're watching act are not
I know,
alive.
I know. Yeah, I know. Her is gone.
Scotty's gone. McCoy's gone.
Yeah, Scotty just not
Savik's
that long
gone.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
I'm
I forgot
sure.
McCoy.
I'm sure. I think Ricardo Montalban's gone. I'm sure Carol Marcus's character. She's probably passed away. I'm like,
Yeah, it's
just
a
crazy.
bummer. See, like I always told you, like I grew up, Leonard Nimoy was, he was my like in search of guy,
Yeah.
and I loved him. But I didn't have like such a strong connection to like Spock until like now.
Right. 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 Right.
And it's just kind of a bummer. But it's almost like I'm happier now knowing that he has like a really cool legacy.
Oh
And then
yeah.
like instead of like finding out about him and being able to like,
Yeah.
hey, I should go like to Comic-Con and see these guys, and then they like pass away. So it's kind of like I'm getting to watch like their
Yeah.
memory and their
Like
their legacy now.
yeah.
So
Like
that's
what?
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I like about this movie is the fact that they like orchestrate the story like really well, where it makes
Hmm.
sense why what's happening is happening.
Yeah, and I like that like Kirk and Khan both are smart and they kind of outplay each other a couple times. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Like they both still got it.
Yeah. I agree. I like that the Reliant is just like looking for planets that don't have any life on them so they can test the Genesis project. And so they're working with Regular One. The Reliant goes to scan SETI Alpha 6 and they scan it and they're like, well, it's practically dead, but there is some weird signal on the planet. And they're like, are you kidding me? I thought this thing was supposed to be dead, like a barren world. And they're like,
So they have to
yeah, well, maybe,
investigate it.
yeah. And they're like, maybe it's nothing. They say maybe it's pre-animate matter. Like, we just launch anyways. And then they contact Carol Marcus and she's like, listen, there can't be anything on it because basically the Federation isn't going to be okay with us killing life to try an experiment. So there
Mm,
can't be anything. There can't even be a microbe on the planet. So she's like, well, then the only way to get the approval is to basically be 100%. So they're like, oh, yeah, we'll go down to the planet and check for you because they're excited to. So they go
right.
down there and him and the captain are walking around and they come across
Yeah.
the storage
The
things.
container, the container
And
ship,
then they're
yeah.
like, okay, so somebody crashed on the planet. So that's what we're finding. But like, where are they? And then they're like investigating and it's very obvious that like more than one person lives there. And then Chekhov sees the Botany Bay belt.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, we need to leave. We need to immediately leave." Khan's outside. The Khan comes in,
Yeah.
and then Khan puts immediately figures out he remembers Chekhov,
I know remember that he remembered Chekhov, yeah.
which is funny
He
because
has like very little interaction with Chekhov
Chekhov isn't in season one of at
at
all.
all. Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot that he's not even in that episode. How funny is that?
So the really
That's
funny thing
that's really funny.
is in the special edition DVD text commentary, Walter Koenig, who plays Chekhov, often joked at conventions and interviews that his character had made Khan wait overly long to use a bathroom on his visit aboard the Enterprise. And that's why Khan remembered his face so well. And
That's
then in the
funny.
DVD commentary track, the director, Nicholas Mayer, said that he was aware of the discontinuity, but ignored it because he acknowledged that he could have just as easily put Uhura on the Reliant and kept the consistency, but he preferred Chekhov and
Yeah.
referred the fact that the creator of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Yeah.
frequently contradicted himself in his books about Sherlock Holmes, saying that the continuity did not matter as long as he had the audience engrossed and enjoying the story.
Well, that's true. And here's the thing. I watched pretty much all of season one. Don't even remember Chekhov wasn't even in that episode. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, so now that scene's happening.
I like that
And
captain too, by the way.
yes, he's very good.
He's pretty good.
So the whole thing is happening, and then basically Chekhov is like, well, I don't get it. He's like, why are you so mad? Like, why are you upset? He's like, Kirk left you on Ceti Alpha 5 to like have a life. And Khan turns around and goes, this is Ceti Alpha 5. And then he explains that 6 months after they were deposited on Ceti Alpha 5, Ceti Alpha 6 exploded.
Right.
And sent 5 off its orbit and turned 5 into a desolate
desert planet. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I'm with you.
Yeah. So that's why he's
So on their starships, they didn't have like a, hey, that other planet's gone. There's supposed to be 2 planets here with a moon.
Well,
There's
6,
only one.
and now there's
Yeah.
5.
Well, right, yeah. If you're numbering them,
Right.
the 6. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only 5.
I don't know why they didn't, when they got in there, didn't do a preliminary scan. I guess they just went right to the.
I also, when they walk outside and they're like, oh man, all these people in robes,
Oh,
they don't look good. They should have just been like, hey, so just beam us back aboard, please. Just the 2 of us. That would be great. I like the worm creature. I thought that looked pretty good.
pulling
Pulling the little
babies off of it.
babies. Yeah, that's fun. I'm glad those things just come out of your ear on their own though, because
Well, when they're scared.
I thought for sure Bones was gonna have to do like neural surgery and pull them out of there.
Yeah. And so then he explains, and this is where the reference comes. He explains that these are the only living inhabitants of Ceti Alpha 5, and they killed 20 of his people, including his wife, which was
Interesting.
Marla McGivers from the show.
Yeah, right.
Because he says that once he puts them in, you're very susceptible to suggestion, but the longer they're wrapped around your brain stem, like you just go mad and then die. So that's what happens.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then he goes back up and Chekhov's all like, yeah, hey, we're gonna go check out the plant, the station. And she's like, why?
Yeah.
He's like, hey, because it's I'm ordered.
Yeah. Kirk told us to go. Like, why is that happening? Well, anyway, I can't disobey orders. I'll see you in a day. I'll see you in 2 days. We'll be.
Did you
I like that
the,
ship. I thought that was cool.
Did you like the
Yeah.
the bosun whistle?
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. Captain on board. I like how the ship felt more military too.
Yes.
Everybody kind of stood at attention. And Spock kind of like told everybody they were free to leave. Thought that was cool.
Yeah. It was funny when Scotty says something along the lines that like the doctor got them all patched up, and Kirk is like, well, what happened? And then Bones is like, shore leave, and he's like, oh.
Yes, I did catch that. I thought that was like super funny.
Yeah.
Like, he got me all patched up and ready to go.
I also thought you would super like, because I super like that after everybody clears the hallway, like Spock and Savick like speak Vulcan to each other.
Yeah, that was super cool. Now I think that's the first time. kind of, right? That
I
you've heard like
definitely think
full.
in the original series, yes. I mean, I think in Enterprise people do, and I think maybe in Strange New Worlds, maybe, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But
rare.
so this was cool for like the original series that have this
Yeah.
spot.
Other than saying words like, you know, the pluck cow and like
Yeah, like
certain
like
words and stuff like
food and that kind of stuff.
Hanfar and
Pon far.
Funat
Yeah,
Khalifi.
right.
Like, yeah, you don't
Kuna
like
Khalifi.
yeah, you don't
I
really
thought it
get
was funny. She was like, he is a lot different than I was picturing, and he was like, "How is that?" And she's like, "He's really human." It's like, oh yeah, yes, he is.
well, that's because Spock. I think they were indicating that Spock had really talked up Kirk to her,
Right.
and so she's like, "Oh, he's not really what I
Like he was
expected."
this stern, emotionless captain that Spock would
Right,
admire, but like that's
right,
not why Spock admired him.
right, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that.
I thought it was really cool when they show the bridge scene and Spock is in the chair and he has the pad that he's signing and he gives to the yeoman.
Yeah.
That was really
I love
nice.
that. I love that they're still signing pads.
Still signing pads.
Like, hey, Captain, we can't leave until this has your signature on it. And he's like, yep, free to leave. Thank you. Like, I love it. I love it. So like
It's like
doesn't fit in sci-fi, but it's so great.
it's a 2000 UPS deliver. He's like, here, if you can just sign here for, yeah, you
Uh-huh.
got it.
I thought engineering was cool in this movie too.
Yeah,
That
totally.
that little glass elevator that comes down,
Like what was, yeah, why? But yeah.
pretty great. There's a couple shots of the really long ladder that comes
Oh,
down.
yep, yep.
I like that. I like the nuclear intermix chamber is got like a glass revolving door that like sends you into like the really bad area and it
Yeah,
keeps out
yeah, yeah.
all the radiation.
Don't go in there. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I really enjoyed that all of the leaving space dock and even the Klingon ships were like reused footage from the motion picture.
Oh wow. Yeah, it totally was, wasn't it?
It really was. Like when they show the three Klingon ships like moving in the Kobayashi Maru thing, it's like it's clearly
I
also
was
the
really stunned too, like when everybody's sections start getting blown up.
I wondered, yeah.
They're like blown like ah like holy crap. I don't know how the Klingons are directly attacking the actual like comm
Yeah.
panels and stuff,
Like
but
how are they
that's
doing
not good. And then when Kirk comes in, reveals that it's the simulation, and what does he say to Bones? He's like, "You got a
Bones
good
says to
position
him,
down
like,
there," or something.
you didn't comment on my acting skills. And he's like, I'm not a drama teacher or whatever he says.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Speaking of another really good Bones line, Kirk gets on the turbo lift and then Savick gets on it with her like weird white jumper suit with
Oh
her hair
yeah,
down. And
and
they're
he's like, "Did you change
talking.
your hair?"
Yeah.
So it's still standard issue. Like, okay, great.
And they're
And then
talking and they go and then Kirk pushes the thing and they're still talking and then the door opens up and McCoy's like, who's holding up the turbo?
and then he gets in. He's like, "Did she do something with her hair?" And Kirk's like, "I didn't notice."
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And then they talk about Carol Marcus and I like that line.
Oh yeah. What does he say?
Says
He's
to
like,
him.
"Yeah, when it rains, it pours."
Yeah. And he says to him,
He's like,
he goes,
"Don't you?"
yeah, he says, I expected you as a doctor to know that opening old wounds would be a bad thing. And I was like, oh.
It's pretty good.
And then soon
Yeah,
after,
that.
we get to see Spock's quarters, which was cool.
Yeah, I like that. Spock's captain quarters.
Yep.
I like that scene too. After they kind of figure out, like, hey, something really weird is going on. We should check it out. And Spock's like, "Well, you're in full control of the ship." And
Yeah.
Kirk's like, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly."
Oh,
And Spock's like, you don't understand, Kirk. Like you're not gonna bruise my ego. It's standard protocol for the admiral to take
right.
helm of the ship. It's not my role as captain. it was like such a switch from the motion picture where he walks in and he's like, hey, look, I may be retired, but I'm
Yeah, right.
taking I'm captain. You're not the captain anymore. I'm the captain. It's
Yeah,
like,
totally a flip.
he was kind of reluctant to be captain of the ship. I felt like because it
Yeah,
was they're almost saying like he doesn't want to do it because he knows that he loves it.
right,
He wants to just kind of step away from it and not think about the fact that he hates being in an office all day.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, and then they get all that, and then
Falls right into Khan's
right
trap.
into it. Let's slow down, slice and yeah. He's very good at like lavishing
Mm-hmm.
how like great he is. He's really good at just
Yeah,
sounding so egotistical.
he's really great at being like just this pompous,
Yeah,
arrogant jerk.
and
Even
then
that scene where he thinks that he's like one, and he's just kind of like slouched back in his chair.
yeah, yeah. The whole thing with they're getting closer, and she's like, regulation, like general order, whatever, and then Spock's like, listen, don't tell them about regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like the line that Khan says, let them eat static.
Yes.
And
I
then,
I feel like there's a few lines in this movie that get quoted all the time.
oh yeah,
And I was like, oh, so this is where all those lines come from. Like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
oh the one,
Um, oh, the one.
yeah.
Ah, I'm green.
And the
Yeah,
other one was the Klingon proverb, "Revenge is a dish best served
but
cold."
served cold. But that's
Yeah,
an actual saying, though. Is it not an
maybe
actual saying? Is it just Star Trek saying?
it may be just a Star Trek saying.
I could have swore that was like a human expression.
It might be, but I've only heard it in context of this.
And then, of course, the other line that is always quoted is, "God."
Wow, yeah, yeah,
I thought it was going to be a lot more cheesy because I've always like seen it, but
yeah.
I didn't think so. I thought that scene was actually pretty good.
I like him getting mad at him, but I think the echoing of it constantly is like overkill.
Mm-hmm.
Where they pan to the planet and it's like, God, God, God. And I'm just like, okay, it's too
Yeah,
much.
that's too much. That's too much. But that part where he's like in the lower levels and Khan's like all sly and he's like he just yells at him that one time. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But that's a Kirk thing anyway. He does that all the time with Bones and Spock. Like they'll be doing stuff and they won't respond. He's like, Spock, Spock, Spock. It's just like he's not responding to you, Kirk. Like you don't have to keep saying his name.
Yeah. So looking it up, they say that it comes from Eugene Sue's novel Memoirs of Matilda in 1846.
Holy crap.
And it gets kind of like mixed up for a lot, but most recently it's used in two other movies before this, which is Kind Hearts and Coronets, which is 1949. It says revenge is a dish which people of taste prefer to eat cold.
Hmm.
And it's in The Godfather, and they
Mm,
say revenge is a dish that tastes best when it's cold. And then the Wrath of Khan.
interesting. Okay, so it's not a Klingon
No,
proverb then. Get out of
no.
here.
I know. I didn't think it was Klingon proverb. I just
No, but I
I
didn't.
hadn't heard it from somewhere else.
That's funny because I've heard that like a lot my whole life. Like watching this movie, I was like, is that legitimately something that came from Star Trek? Is that like a quote that came from Star Trek? Yeah, that's pretty
I
good.
enjoy the back and forth of him and Kirk after he shoots the ship and all that, and they talk, and he's like, "You got to give me time, Khan. You got to give me time. You just got to give me time."
Oh yeah. He's like, you have 15 seconds, Captain.
And then they
It's like,
give him,
we're going through the logs, man. I don't know anything about Phil Collins, Genesis, or any of that stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
know
We gotta
nothing
check
about
these
this.
logs. Don't play dumb with me. He's like, I want to know everything you know about Genesis. And he's like, what's that? I know who that. Don't play stupid with me. I know you know about Genesis.
I know you know
Weren't you dating the woman in charge of Genesis? No,
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 no, no, no.
no, 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 no,
That's a different James Cook.
no, no. I like that though because she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, just something that shouldn't be possible on these Starfleet ships, so that this doesn't happen,
Yeah,
so that other ships can't like get our access codes
yeah.
and shut down the whole ship. I thought that was pretty good.
Prefix code.
Which is pretty stupid on Khan's part to like you take a Federation ship, you're attacking a Federation ship, you want them to send something over to you.
Right, right.
You wouldn't think that they would have like a debugger, basically, like a computer data thing that's like, hey, so we're a Federation ship, we know all your stuff, we can take control of the ship
Right.
in like in emergency situations.
That's what's really funny is I think it's supposed to play to Khan being like so full of himself that he has
Yeah.
Kirk like in the palm of his hand kind of thing.
Yeah. It's pretty stupid. And he keeps like surviving. I love it.
Oh
Every
yeah.
time like Khan's like, all right, do this. And he's like, Kirk, how are you alive?
Right. You should be dead.
You should be so dead right now.
Every time he comes on and talks to him, he's always like, "What? No!"
I have to see this through.
He
I have to
tasks
kill
me. He tasks
Kirk.
me.
Because even that one guy on Khan's like site, he was like so like rational and is like, dude, like we're off the planet.
But
We're
we have
safe. We have a Federation ship. We can go anywhere.
right.
You've already outplayed Kirk. It's like, don't you understand? I need to kill him. I need to kill him. Like, why?
He tasks me. And then they get beamed down Savage, right? And Spock says, "Jim, be careful."
Yeah.
And then McCoy turns and goes, "We will."
I did. I love that. I love that too. What does she say? She's like, oh, protocol says you have to have like a
Oh yeah.
security.
Yeah.
And he's
yeah.
like, that doesn't exist. And she's like, basically like, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
That was good.
I did like the McCoy, like, yeah, we will be safe. Thanks. Like, you just stay up here with your precious ship.
Then you kind of got like an aliens thing, right? When they get on the station.
Oh, dude, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool. They're like beamed down on this thing. And first of all, this is when Kirk has like his other uniform that's got like in the behind you, it's got like the high collar.
The high collar, yeah, here.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I like how there's a couple scenes, like we'll come back to this, but I like how there's a couple scenes where he's doing stuff and he has like his jacket off.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
just wearing like his white shirt, and somebody comes in the room and he's like, oh my God. He's gonna like put his jacket on like quickly. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you shouldn't see me in just my civilian clothes.
Gotta be professional.
Yeah. Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, but this was a total like Nostramos like ship, like walking through the corridor and and it's dark, and they got like the little motion thing. Beep 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 beep.
Yeah. And then when they back in the guy's hands, like touching they touch the dead hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my question: how do rats get in space?
In cargo containers.
They would have to be in cargo containers. Yeah. That's such a horror movie trope too. Like, oh my God, a rat. And it's like, okay, I got my eyes on you, rat. I got my eyes on you, rat. Oh, rat.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like it.
I thought you would be pretty Jones to see phasers be shot.
Yeah.
I thought, because remember in the first movie, we're like, There was
No
no phase.
phasers, no communicators, no uniforms, nothing.
I also thought of you when the Khan is telling the captain to kill him. He's like, yeah, okay, just kill him. And he was like, yeah, no problem.
I can't.
Yeah.
No, it's all right. You can kill him.
No, I can't. No, I won't kill
No.
Kirk. Yeah. So apparently he had enough, the captain had enough wherewithal to like kill himself, and then
Mm-hmm.
the slug eel thing was like, oh man, that means I'm
Oh,
gonna
I
die,
don't.
and then leaves Chekhov.
I don't want to be shot.
So let
Chekhov
me
overacting again, of course. And here's the other thing about this whole thing.
yeah.
So they find Chekhov and the captain in that like cargo thing,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, we he put these things in our
Oh yeah.
brains that made us do things and made us
Yeah.
betray everything we believe in. But we're good now. We're good now." And Bones is there, and he's not once like, "You should probably do a scan of your head and just make sure that like you're okay, like you didn't do any internal like not for like, oh, I don't trust these guys, but like let me make sure like it didn't do any damage to your like brain or anything."
Right, right.
And they're just like, "Yeah, they're cool. You're coming with us." They're like, "Yeah, we'll go with you." And they're like, "Sorry, Captain.
I'm
The
still
brain
control.
slug still has complete control.
Oh.
We need the Genesis device, Captain. Don't make any subtle moves. I will blast, you see."
Like this guy here, blam.
Yeah, who was that? I don't even remember who that guy was.
I think he was just somebody that they like a security guy that just brought with him or something.
I thought it was the kid at first.
Oh,
And I was like, no, it can't be because he's got to be a pivotal part of this.
yeah.
I don't even remember there being another guy that beamed down with him. I literally thought it was just like those two, Bones, Kirk, the other Vulcan girl, and like the two, like Chekhov and that guy. I thought those were the only people there.
But yeah, let me show you this. This is what this lady who is the art department coordinator in the 90s, her name's Penny Juday. They showed this.
Oh. Oh, wow.
So they
Oh
showed
my God.
she was showing like the thing that they used for the close up to go and check
That's
out.
how they did that?
It was a plate, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. Would they have like a string connected to it like through the other,
Yeah,
and they just like dragged it
probably.
so it like pulled? They
Yeah.
must use that for that scene where it came out of his ear too.
Yep, I'm sure.
How funny is that, dude? That is so wild.
Super funny, right? Super, super funny.
That's like something you would find in, like a serial killer's house. I like the way she's like looking at it and explaining to her. She's like, "So this is the ear."
So this is Chekhov's ear. So I thought it was pretty cool that she shows Kirk the underground, like
Oh yeah,
shows them
that was
basically like stage 2 of the Genesis project. Like
I
that.
like that Bones was so like against it too. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
you can't play God. You can't do this. Like, oh yeah, and he doesn't refer to it as the Bible. He's like, oh yeah, the human
Meth.
prophecy said that it took place in 6 days.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we'll do it in 6 minutes. Okay, calm down, Bones.
And then he immediately calls it.
And then he said, "This is awesome." He's down there. Like, Kirk, you gotta see this. It's beautiful. Can you believe it? Can you believe they made all this? Like, pick a side, man.
He's traditional Bones.
Yeah. At least in this movie, he never came onto the bridge for no reason.
The other part I like too is when we as the audience also discover that that Spock and Kirk were playing with times, that it was
Yeah.
instead of days and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he has the apple in his hand and he's like, I never lose.
I don't like to lose.
Yeah.
I know, and he played into that pretty well because it's like because they show you like, oh, okay, they have communications,
Right.
and you're like, well, man, but like, that was cool that they're talking in code. Kind of could figure it out a little bit when he's like, come in, Spock. He's like, yeah, and he's like, such and such, whatever the code was,
Yeah.
and it
He
was
was
like,
like, just
okay, so
like, yeah.
they're they're on something.
Yeah.
But then he was moping around the cave and how do I feel? I feel old. I need glasses.
Yeah.
You don't let me see my son.
And how crazy was that, right? How crazy was that?
Yeah.
That's his kid.
Yeah. Sucker punched him pretty good.
He certainly did.
I love you, son. He's like, what? What did you just say to me? Nothing. Where's your mother? Yeah, so I've heard her name before,
You
and
have.
most recently, yeah, in Strange New Worlds, she was mentioned.
Cool.
That's why I remember it because I just watched it not that long ago.
That's cool. I forgot. There was a really funny scene when they get back to the bridge, and it made me laugh a lot. They get back to the bridge, and then Kirk is like, emergency lights on, and the emergency lights light up the bridge even better
The
than
whole bridge.
lights. And I was just like, wait, why?
Yes, that was funny. I also was laughing at the sequence of buttons you have to push to turn the emergency lights on.
Oh, yeah.
Because Spock reaches over and he does one of these like it's like a button here and a button like conveniently located like 7 inches over this way, and he's like,
You
yep,
would
they're on,
never
Captain.
want to press that button to get emergency lights on.
There's also a scene too. It was really funny where Kirk is think of her as like bridge to the captain, and he's
Yeah.
sitting in that chair, and behind him are all those like instead of the gumdrop buttons, now they have
Oh,
like the really colorful like levers, like staggered levers.
yeah.
And you're like, oh, those must like get pushed down or pushed up or whatever. And he just kind of like reaches up to the table, and in front of the lever, he just kind of like puts his like hand on the table, and he's
Yes.
like, Captain here. It's like there's no button there. There's
No,
nothing
no,
there. There's no
no,
speaker. There's no button.
no.
Like, wow, this ship is really, really far with the technology.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Hyper advanced.
Captain Hamp.
There was the shot when they get in the nebula and they're fighting each other,
Mm,
and Khan comes through with the second attack and he hits more of the ship because Kirk tells him to
mm.
turn again. There is a stunt guy that absolutely gets engulfed in flames.
Oh, dude, yeah, he does.
It's like
He's like,
that's
and then he like throws himself into it.
yeah.
Holy shit. That's
It's like
really
that's
bad.
not good.
Well, some of Khan's people too, they like commit 100%.
Oh yeah.
They're like, and then they go over the railing. Like, dude,
Yeah, I gotta
you
gotta
guys
believe it.
are committed. I don't
Yeah,
think
go ahead.
I've seen in Star Trek, I don't
Yeah.
think I've seen like phasers hitting the ship without shields.
No.
There's always shields. Well, for the most part. But this was very like I've never seen this in Star Trek as of yet, where they're
Right.
like phasers and it's going like psh, 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 and it's like shooting like into the ship and blowing stuff up on the inside of the ship.
Right.
You can
Right.
actually see it like a
Carving.
laser like carving. I was like, man, that's really cool. Like it's
Yeah.
really bad,
It's
but
like
it's really cool to see
super,
it.
super, super bad, right? Because
Because
then
normally it's
later,
just like lasers and it's like boing.
right?
And everybody on the ship's like, oh my god. Shields at 98%, Captain. Oh my god.
Yeah, usually even in the original series, they don't even really show phasers. They just show those like orbs getting
Nah,
shot.
nah.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty
It's intense.
cool.
And then also like, right, Khan loses the nacelle. They blow up his nacelle so that he's like
Oh,
he's without the
yeah,
one,
that was
like all
bad. Those were
sparking.
definitely like miniatures.
Oh yeah.
That was super cool. And then maybe that's where we're going, but him activating the thing was really
Yeah.
cool, I thought.
Yep.
The like I was like, okay, that's a lot to do like while you're severely injured.
You're
But like it was
dying,
really cool
right?
how like he would turn the main thing, then he
Yeah.
would turn the switch, and it would
Like
like
activate.
the
Yep.
outside ring would like shoot in, and then he would like turn it again and turn the switch, and then the other ring would go in.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was very,
His hand
very.
is all like kick, kick. His face is like
I
melted. Like
stab at thee. I spit. Right. Yeah.
I wish they would have showed him because he can kind of see like on the screen. He's like, he can't run. He can't run.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish they would have showed him seeing like the Enterprise just go and be like,
Oh,
nah, boom, and then blowing up.
I.
Like that would have felt pretty good, right?
Yeah.
He's still out there. I didn't see him die on screen.
That's
He's
true.
still out there.
You don't see him die. He's still alive.
He's gonna come back like Palpatine on that planet. He's just gonna be in a chair.
So, did you know that this happens in the movie? Did you like know from media that this is what happens?
Nope. In fact, I was like, while it was happening, I was like, what the frick? Because I know the next movie is called The Search for Spock. So I'm very confused by what is happening.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to not think that I know what the next movie is.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to like be in the moment, you know?
Yeah, because obviously when this came out in 82, there was no talk of the next movie. So you didn't know
No,
what the next movie was called.
no. And it's still super sad. Like even without knowing, like I know Spock comes back in the next movie. I
Yeah.
know Spock is not like dead,
Sure.
but yeah, it really kind of sucked, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
That whole like they're like super happy because they got away.
Right.
The Genesis explosion is creating like a new planet in life, and it's like beautiful. And
Right.
then then Kirk gets on his chair, and it's Bones, and he's like, "Hey, you should probably come down here."
Right. Because
And
he's
he
like
was like,
thanking Scotty
"Oh,
for the hard work. Right. Yeah. And he's like,
yeah,
yeah, you should just come down.
yeah." You're like, "Oh man."
And he sees the chair. They cut to the Spock's chair, and he's
They
not
looks over to
sitting.
see Spock's chair is empty. Yeah, I like seeing it like as the audience. Like Spock has this kind of like his like heroic moment. He opens up that like hatch to get the
Yeah.
engineering, and he's like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah," and he's like sliding down the thing.
Yeah.
And he runs over, and of course Bones is like, "You're not doing it." And he's like, "Oh, that's very interesting, Bones. That's very interesting." Ah, no, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Then what's he do?
Remember, remember who you are,
He gives him some Mufasa. Remember.
Mufasa.
Yeah. And then
Which I didn't know he could even do that. Because what would he have forgotten?
well, we might have seen it one other time.
Mm,
Do you remember
no.
the episode of Enterprise?
Remember. uh
Enterprise episode when they're on the Vulcan planet with T'Pol and they're trying to get the Vulcan pyramid thing, the Kirshara,
oh wow,
and
yeah.
they
That's
meet the
that's a pretty
random
heavy episode with a lot of Vulcan stuff in it.
and they meet the desert Vulcan guy,
Yes.
and then he dies in the lightning storm,
Yeah.
and he touches Archer's
Oh
face
yeah.
before he dies,
He does do that.
and then what happens to Archer?
Archer remembers. He remembers where the tablet is. That like
He has like basically like dual personalities where he's like Archer, but
yeah.
he also has like the memories
Well,
of this guy.
he almost like put his memories into Archer so Archer could like find the tablet and lead the Vulcans into like
Yep.
finding it and like meaning of what it is to be Vulcan.
So,
Hmm. Wow, that's cool.
yep.
In my brain canon, too, is that I like to think that this is Ethan Peck in the future too. That's
I
my
Yeah, of course. Then he reaches into that burning hot steaming
yeah,
thing. It's
dude.
like, ah.
And he has to like look right
Oh
into
yeah.
it, you know?
When Kirk gets down there and he's like, no, no, he's trying to get in. And then Scotty has like this, the way he says it, the way James Doohan says it is just like,
He's already dead.
he's already dead. And you're just like,
He's already dead. Kirk, have to let him go. He's he's already dosed.
and then he goes
Yeah.
over to the glass
And
and
they're
he's
like, it'll flood the room if you open the door. And it was like, how is there no like pump to like pump out? Because how do they get his body out? They get his body
they
out, you're
just have to
fine.
wait. They have to wait. I think the mechanism to seal the room is broken.
Wow. Well, because that scene early on when Scotty's trying to fix the thing, he's like, there's too much radiation, and he like kind of like passes out,
Right, right.
and McCoy like picks him up down there.
So speaking before we get to the iconic part, I forgot that to mention that it's I know it's like it makes sense and it's weird. So when Kirk is coming down the thing and he's talking to when he first gets on the ship and he talks to Scotty about shore leave, and then he goes down and he's like, "And who are you, sir?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm Peter, whatever, Pearson, whatever." And he's
Yes.
like, "Yes," and he talks to him, and you see in the background that like Scotty is like smiling and looking at him, and then later he's like talking,
Mm.
and the kid does something else, and then much later
Yeah.
Scotty brings his body to the bridge.
Yeah, that was sad too. I forgot about that.
And then they bring the body to sick bay, and then he says, "Give the word," and he says the word is warp speed.
Yeah. Warp speed, yeah.
And then Scotty's
Give the
like, hey,
word. Give the word, Captain.
yeah, and then Scotty's like, he stayed at his station when all the other trainees left, ran away, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It is, I think it is one of the worst deleted scenes that for the movie that's Scotty's nephew.
Oh, dude.
But they edit out that
Well,
he said so much.
that explains so much more like why he's super invested in this
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
I get that, I put the pieces together. He's just a good engineer, and like he said, he didn't leave his post.
right.
But if he's related to him, dude, that's awful.
Yeah. He says,
That
"Oh, this," in one of the
blows.
deleted scene, he's like, "This is my sister's son," or whatever, blah, blah, whoever, whatever her name is. So that's why he comes to the bridge, because he's just
He's
like,
holding. Oh,
yeah, it's like, it's not, it's so much worse. And I think it would have been so much more impactful. For whatever reason, they
yeah.
edited it.
Why would they cut that out,
I
man?
don't
That's
know.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in that scene after they got like hit, they got like shot a few times.
Yeah.
Kirk says, "All right, we need to go assess the damage," and then the
The
lift
door.
opens, and it's
Yeah.
just yeah.
Sam. Yeah.
It's like,
And then
oh,
they also, I want to say they also chopped down his like rant and sick bay about him, because all of a sudden it
mm.
just is him being like, he stayed at the station the longest, and then they just kind of hard cut, and Kirk is like walking, and it kind of didn't feel like Scotty was done talking, and I think it's because they cut him.
Well, even in that scene too, it was interesting. Like, I understand that like Kirk is the captain, and that's kind of Bones' job, but
Yeah,
like they're all supposed to be friends, and Kirk is staying there, and he tells the kid, warp speed,
yeah,
and the kid dies, and then Spock calls on the intercom, and Kirk's like, "Yeah, go ahead, Spock," and Spock like tells him whatever he needs to come to the bridge,
right.
and he's like, "Okay." He doesn't say anything to Scotty,
No,
and Bones is the one he's like, "Hey, I'm really sorry," and then
right.
Kirk just like leaves,
And I think it's
and I
because
was like, "Ah,
that's
man,
weird,
that's
right?
gotta."
I think it's because they do have an exchange, and then Spock like is like the transition. Like he has an exchange with Scotty, and then Spock calls and he leaves, and then McCoy finishes the scene.
Is the word given, Admiral?
The word is given. Warp speed.
Aye.
Why? He wants to kill me for passing sentence on him 15 years ago. And he doesn't care who stands between him and his vengeance.
I'm sorry, Scotty.
He stayed at his post when the trainees ran.
Admiral, this is Spock.
Yes, Bob.
Engine room reports auxiliary power restored. We can proceed at impulse power.
Best speed to regular one. Kirk out. Scotty, I have to ask. Is there any chance of getting the mains back on the line?
I didn't think so, sir, but you'll have my best. Thanks. I know you tried, Doctor.
You all right?
I don't know. Doctors lose patience sometimes. Damn it. I'm still in the dark. How did he know about Genesis?
I don't know. But what's important now is to prevent him from getting his hands on it. You said it yourself, it's a bang that could rearrange the universe.
There still may be time. You gave as good as you got.
We're alive only because I knew something about these ships that he didn't.
I don't know why they edited
Yeah,
that.
I just thought I thought that was kind of weird.
It is weird.
Where Kirk doesn't even say that he's sorry or anything.
No.
Especially now that you know that like that was his family member, that's even worse than.
Right. So
I
there
think
we
it's
are.
interesting foreshadowing that you get to see them load the torpedoes,
Yeah.
and then they end up. That's how they send out, Spock too.
Fuck, yeah.
I thought that was cool though. I thought that was cool that like everybody kind of runs over to that thing and they all
Oh,
have like
yeah.
their little hooks and they're all pulling the panel
Hold the
up,
pins up, yeah.
the gate, the
Yeah.
floor gate, and that's like where the torpedo like gets loaded into the tube.
It's a
I
little
thought that was kind
like
of cool.
Balance of Terror, where it's kind of like they push the button and he's like, fire torpedoes, and then it goes down to the station and he's like, fire torpedoes, and then it goes down to this other person and they're like, firing torpedoes, and then they fire.
As the other guy, the
It's
other
a
guy's like,
little-
all right.
It's a
Yeah.
little. Just think about it, like, okay, oh god, red alert, fire torpedoes. Like, oh, and they have to run over, like, pull the floor up, and then like load a torpedo and then shoot it. It's like you don't got that kind of time.
I don't know. It's interesting.
It's a cool visual, but like realistically, it doesn't make any sense.
I would assume that you would always have two in the chamber at all times.
All
And
the
that, like,
time.
if you were in red alert, then those panels are just open.
Yeah.
But it is really slow because when you see Spock, it like the lift like lowers it.
Yeah.
And then it goes on the track and it's like it's
I
like,
do think they
dude.
slow it down for him, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
And they're like, all right, and let's take this flag off. Let's fold this back up.
Yeah.
No point of launching that into space.
So Kirk comes up to the glass. He's like, Spock. And then
He
Spock
pushes the
stands
button.
up, and I like how he adjusts his shirt.
Yeah.
He fixes
did
his
too.
uniform like to look presentable. Yeah, just just Leonard Nimoy coming over to
Yeah.
that glass window and being like, his first words are "ship out of danger." That's all he says to him.
Yeah.
Such a good line.
Yeah.
He's like, we're okay, Spock.
Hmm.
So my mom and dad told me when they saw it in '82, obviously you don't know that this is going to happen. You also don't know that there's a third movie. So my mom and dad said they were sitting there watching the movie, and Spock is having this moment on screen, and you're obviously getting the impression that like he's dead, right? Scotty has said he's dead already. Like this is it. Spock is not going to live. And then my parents said that when Spock put his hand up on the glass with the Vulcan salute, like everybody in the audience had their
Oh
hand out,
man.
and you could hear like people like crying in the audience and stuff.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awful.
like sobbing and stuff because people just
It's horrible.
because you're dealing with a character that like everybody loved, and you're finally getting these characters in the movie, and now he's dead. It's like, geez.
That's a bummer.
And I think that's why everybody holds this movie to such a high thing. One, it calls back to the original series, which everybody likes. It's like a continuation of an
Yeah.
episode. But also, like, the stakes were real. It wasn't just like another rando episode of Star Trek where it's like, oh man, that guy was crazy. See you later. Like, Spock dies.
And that's even what Kirk says to his son. His son has that conversation, like, you've never really had loss. And he's
You're
like,
right.
not like this. Not anybody that I'm close to.
Right.
Yeah, we've lost people, but not Spock. I mean, Spock is like crucial,
Yeah.
How do I ask this without spoiling anything? In Strange New Worlds, Pike is told that like Spock has to live.
Mm-hmm.
I assume this is one of the moments that like Spock has to like make it to in the future.
Well, I mean, it's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about it, if Spock didn't do this, like, Khan probably would have killed them all. And Kirk and all the crew go on to do other things, so they wouldn't, because they would have been dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot.
Because they just that scene makes it out to be like there's one like pivotal moment in Spock's history that shapes the future.
There's a couple.
And I haven't seen anything that's been like super like, like a why in the timeline yet. But I feel like it would have to be in this general area,
Well, you think about it, when he shows up in that episode, he's in these uniforms, right?
Well,
Pike
that's
shows
true.
up in this
Yeah.
type of uniform, not paralyzed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, hey, like Spock has to live because without him, we're at war. We're at constant war.
Yeah. Kirk goes on
He goes right on the offensive.
offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It chases them
That's
down.
right.
And
gotta rewatch
Pike
that
tries to
episode.
be like friendly with them at first, like tries to make peace with them.
And Spock ends up dying during that.
Correct.
Or getting like,
And then
so,
they go into all out war with the Romulans
around this for years and years
for years and years and years. For like, as you can see, like almost 20 years, probably they're at war with the Romulans.
So in the very, very essence of that time period is like Pike has to be in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And Spock has to be aboard with Kirk.
Yeah.
For human history not to be at war for ever.
It's like Kirk has to be the captain in that thing, and then also Spock is pivotal for many other things down the road.
That's cool. Yeah,
Which he just is. I mean, you think about all the episodes where we talk about how Spock saves the crew. It's like, well, if he's dead, then they're dead too. It's like
yeah. Especially this. I mean, this is like, I always say, well, Scotty always saves the day. He's the engineer, but like this is like very much like Spock's like, I'm the only one that can withstand the radiation, so I'm gonna go fix the warp core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the souls in my travels, his was the most
human.
Yeah.
I like that shot at the end when they're all looking at like the new planet and stuff.
Yeah.
And Kirk is kind of like got his arms out on the thing, and he's just kind of like kind of defeated, but also like he says, like, I feel young again.
Yeah.
I feel like I could go for another 5 or 4 movies at least.
Yeah. I feel like I could sing about yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've always had an issue with this movie, and I get it, Well, I find it strange that they launch Spock's body in a torpedo casing instead of just taking him back to his father and mother.
Yeah. Nah. Sarah doesn't want anything to do with them.
It's just so funny to me. It's just like, why though? You didn't do that with the kid. Like all the other people aren't getting launched into space. Why Spock's body? And I get it. Because I know things, but it's just like it just doesn't. It's a thing that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like we as the audience don't know, but like clearly like they were setting up like
Right.
something's gonna happen. Like he's not
Right.
gonna be gone. And you have to do that.
Right.
If you take him home to his mother and father, he's not going to,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But that is super funny though.
Yeah.
Like
just return him.
well, we know Spock pretty good. He'd want to be out.
He doesn't want to go
He'd
home.
want to be out.
And I thought it was an interesting symbolism when he puts the glasses on and one of the lenses is cracked.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like now that one lens is broke, like the glasses are useless kind of thing. Like they feel.
I don't know how they get broke though. Do you?
I think when he has them,
He did.
Yeah, I think he has them in his hands and they get broke. Yeah.
He did have them down there because, well, that was the other funny scene too. I remember when they're trying to find the codes for the other ship.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hold on, Khan will be right with you." And he's like, "All right, let's see here, 7593. Okay." I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good.
Again, like you said, he's in his 40s and he's got him like, old man like down here reading his book.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And then we end on the famous gently laid torpedo case in the jungle, just peacefully laying there. Yeah, it's just like la la la. It just
Sleep tight, Spock.
doesn't explode on contact. It's not buried into,
It should have been just like standing up, like in the dirt.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for it. I was just waiting for the door to just be like fly off and just like
yeah. And it's Khan.
Genesis. That's cool. And then we get his voiceover, which I really, really enjoyed.
Yep.
Space. The final frontier. That was cool. And that was a cool like star like pan shot.
Was cool. So that was generally Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
It was pretty good. All right. So if you have watched the retrack review, we'll ask me questions every episode. So it's only fair that for the motion pictures, I get to torture him with questions. So for first question, this is the Alora Award, which is the most unlikable character.
It's just Khan. That's very straightforward. There's not really anybody else that I would consider to be more unlikable to him. So
only he was British.
True.
All right. So for your Argyle Award, it's the most forgettable character.
I mean, that guy just getting blasted down on regular one was pretty bad. That we were like, "Who is
I don't even know
that
who
guy?"
I don't know. I have no idea who he even is. I don't even remember seeing him beam down with him. He's just there.
I think it's either him because of just that randomness, or it's Scotty's nephew because like they don't say he's Scotty's nephew.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I kind of feel like it's one or the other. I'm kind of down in the middle with those two.
I also forgot to mention it, but I really like when Khan grabs Chekhov's like strap and like picks him up.
Oh, yeah,
pretty good.
I'm so strong.
You're lying. Captain Kirk gave you Beautiful place to live. I know, I was there. I saw the whole thing. Okay, so for your Denovian Neural Parasite Award is the best alien.
That's obviously the SETI Alpha 5 eels.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. The little
Obviously.
we keep them as pets, but we haven't had any success in domesticating them.
They're delicious, but in 48 hours we die when we eat them.
Okay, so for your Data Award, who's your MVP?
Spock. It has to
Yeah,
be. There's
absolutely.
just no other way. It has to be Spock.
Is true. So for the Worf Award is best action.
The best action sequence for that is definitely when Spock talks about how Khan isn't thinking three-dimensionally, he's only thinking two-dimensionally, and they change the
Lower the
positioning of the ship, like up and down. And then he comes up behind him and he shoots him. He shoots the ship. That's
that's pretty good.
Because I was thinking about you when that scene happens. I was like, this is really what Caleb always talks about when ship battles. Like,
You can move
they could go like
any direction.
any direction. And they're like, nope, got to only face forward or go in reverse.
4 words. 4 words is it. And if you got to turn,
Right, just bank. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. The other
So.
part of that I enjoy is when they're like, all right, scanning, and they're like, oh my God, it's right in front of us. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I think it's really, really a bad choice to have just screen viewers on the bridge instead of like an actual window in there,
Yeah. They've done it with certain Star Trek shows and stuff. They've put like actual glass things there, but
yeah. I don't know. It just seems interesting. I also love too when Spock is like scanning stuff. He's like, "Oh, it's a signal I've never seen before," and he like the computer pulls up and it's like just this ball like spinning,
yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, I know." It's like, what? That's nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing. How are you reading this? It's just
it's a
shapes.
ball.
It's just shapes.
Captain is a spinning sphere.
Oh, it's human. All right. So for your 1701/D award is some sweet ship stuff.
As much as I like the phasers carving into the Enterprise, I always am super impressed because it doesn't happen super often in Star Trek where a ship loses a nacelle. It's pretty cool. I really like the Reliant losing the nacelle and like sparking and like kind of drifting through space.
That was cool. That part that was like sparking
and like all that like electrical debris is like coming off of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Really
You're
good.
right. We don't see that very often because that's pretty much like a game over for an
yeah.
Starfleet ship.
I don't even know if they could really even properly limp home even with one. I think they're dead in space. Not like
it seems
dead.
like a pretty big target too. It's like, hey, so you know that thing that connects both of the engines together? If you just shoot that, it just disables the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's basically, you know what it is, Will? It's Goku's tail. That's what it is.
It is. Just tug a little bit. Boom.
Yeah. All right. So for your Talar award is the cheesiest thing.
I honestly think the thing I've always been sad about, and I'm always like, it just doesn't make any sense, is when the captain does I forget what his name is, and I'm sorry that I forget it. But when the captain kills himself, and then randomly Chekhov just his eel decides to like leave his head, and then it's just like, oh, I'm fine. He's just laying on the thing with like a bandage on his ear, and he's totally fine. It's just like,
and then he comes on board, and he's like, "Do you need any help on board?" And they're like, "Absolutely. Take your seat at weapons.
Yeah,
I trust you completely. I've never not trusted you completely."
Yeah, it just, and it makes you think like you get why the captain's not shooting because he's like resisting and he's trying to put the phaser onto himself, but like Chekhov is just standing there. And it's like,
Well,
yes,
yeah.
of course he's resisting too, but it's like, I don't know. It's always been a
And
thing where I'm
also,
just
it's
like,
also like
why?
Chekhov wasn't given the order either, so I don't know.
Right, right. So
Because he pulls that wrist communicator off first.
yeah. So it's definitely
Yeah, that's
Chekhov's
true.
just
I
like
would have.
not also like trying to like to me it would have made more sense if he was like, okay, now you, Commander, you're gonna kill him, and then he went to go move his hand over and he started to do it, and then he started to bring the phaser to himself and he's about to do it, and then the thing comes out of his ear because it's like, oh crap,
Mm,
this is gonna happen again, kind of thing. I think just
yeah.
play it out a little bit rather than it just
Yeah,
be like,
right.
oh man, like, oh, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, Chekhov didn't even have an opportunity to prove his loyalty to Kirk.
Right, right.
He's not. He's Russian.
I don't even know
I
James
don't
Kirk.
even know James Kirk. Why do you think I changed sheeps? Yeah, that's true. I would have to say it's like the simulation in the beginning when everyone's just flying off their
Oh,
chairs.
yeah.
That's pretty funny.
The fake dying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, all right, full power to the power is gone. Yeah.
Also, like that part when Spock he gets it, he's like, ah, and then he lays down and he goes, hmm. He just lays there.
I like when like Kirk comes in too, and after he's like talked to everybody, like Spock is still kind of like
Yeah.
laying there, and he's just like, permission to speak freely, and he's like, you always do. Okay, so for your next generation award, what's the best thing in this movie?
I feel like everybody would beat me over the head if I didn't say Spock dying, like the whole scene of him protecting the thing.
The
But
best when he's dead.
I don't it's like it's a really memorable, great scene, but I don't think it's the best scene because it's like this, it's just really sad. I think the thing that everybody always thinks about and is just a really decent scene, and it's like it's a really you always get like that when you like, especially when you rewatch it and you get like the kind of like that rush feeling is when Kirk says, "Here it comes," and then and then goes to Spock and he pushes the flip buttons to send the prefix code, and then he's like,
Mm.
they get cuts over to the Reliant, and he's like, "Captain, our shields are going down," and he's like, "We'll put them back up," and he's like, "I
I
can't." He's
can't.
like, "No."
I
And then they go and he's
can't.
like, "Fire!" And then they shoot at the Reliant. I think that's like because now
That's
they're
pretty
getting
good.
him back like immediately. You were ready for
Yeah,
Kirk to be surrendered. Kirk is like literally
Khan thought he was out. He outplayed him. He was so
right,
brilliant,
right.
and all of a sudden it was just like, you're in a Federation ship, dude. We can control a Federation ship with a Federation ship.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
goes, "You
so
did it, Captain." And
stupid.
he's like, "I didn't do nothing except for get caught with my britches down." He says, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great
yeah.
scene.
Like I like that scene. I like that
He's
scene
like,
pretty
"And
good.
Mr. Savick, you go right on quoting regulations." Yeah. So thanks for watching our discussion of The Wrath of Khan. Stick around because this is only Star Trek movie number 2. And
Yeah,
next
8
we're
more to
gonna move
go.
on to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
I know where he is.
You do know where he is, don't you?
He's on the planet. It seems the Genesis has recreated my entire organism from the ground up.
I think
I
you'll
am
be
neither
interested.
human nor a Vulcan.
I think you'll find it interesting to see what actor is in this movie.
Oh no.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about a couple weeks ago. This is the movie that came out like in 1984. So this is right around Temple of Doom,
Oh, I know.
Ghostbusters, Gremlins. This is the movie. So
It's crazy.
just think when you go to
It's
watch it,
crazy.
like that's what also was in theaters when this was in theaters.
I know. Yeah, I know. And like we were talking about, it came out like after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And also
Very crazy.
another movie Hadn't come out yet. And you'll see what I'm talking about when you watch the movie.
Mm.
It hadn't happened yet. The movie hadn't come out. You'll see.
Mm.
So stay
Jurassic
tuned.
Park.
Maybe. So stay tuned for that film. We'll be covering that soon.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us on this Nerd Hole retrek trek. But yeah, this is always fun. I'm having fun going through and watching the Star Trek movies. They kind of feel like just a really long Star Trek episode, which sounds funny to say because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But
If they're good movies, that's what they should feel like, right? Yeah.
yeah. But that is weird in the sense of that, like, I didn't grow up watching like a Star Wars show weekly, and then it was like, hey, they're getting movies.
Right.
This feels like a really long Star Wars show.
Right.
It's like the reverse of that now.
Yeah, now when you watch your 20-minute cartoon, you're like, wow, this season feels like a movie.
Yeah, that's true. So I think that's cool. I think that's cool to watch like a show that was every week people would, watch it on TV every Friday night or whatever. And then like, yeah, then they made like motion pictures and now it's just like a longer format of a standard like episode. And it's cool.
I mean, I can't think of anything else, maybe other than like Happy Days, that like got something. Well, Happy Days didn't. I think Happy Days did get canceled, but they were like 10 seasons in or something. But I mean, honestly, think about Star Trek is like it's a 3-season show that got canceled, and everything after it is just like it's a spin-off of that show. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like all modern Trek is based off of that.
Literally everything.
So yeah, we're having fun. We got plenty more of these to come. So if you are a Trekkie, stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Stay in the nerd hole.
Yeah. We will catch you next time when we find Spock.
Or will we?
Yeah, we will. He's in the black box. He's in a Mark III torpedo box.
Yeah. They find him.
Captain's log, Stardate is fun. Every line a classic run. Warp speed to adventure unknown. In this universe, we're never alone. Will we find Spock in the deep black void? Will Khan's revenge be fully employed? Engage engines, let the story unfold. To boldly go where tales are told. Will we find Spock in the deep black void? Will Khan's revenge be fully employed? Engage engines, let the story unfold. To boldly go where tales are told. Where tales are told.
Space, the final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the starship Enterprise.